Wow. Okay.
Lawlers, welcome back to another video. It's the start of a new week. It's Monday, and that means you want to probably know who to play this week after you get home from school, from work, or you got some free time to play some League of Legends. So we're going to be looking at the best 3 and worst 3 performing champions in the current patch, and I'll probably try and do these now weekly on Mondays, just so that again you can log on, you can take a quick look at the video and see who you should be playing for your best chances to win, and obviously who to avoid for your best chances not to lose. So at the top of this list right now, patch 14.2, and we're going to be looking at Platinum Plus across the world just for a wider game array to get a better kind of stat perspective of who's doing good. Right now, we've got Swain at the top of this patch at a 52.92% win rate. So he is currently S tier. His rune setup here is running Airy. That's going to give him the most success, and then Resolve in the secondary tree, as you can see here. And then you're going to be running some health stacking rune sets as well with cooldown reduction. And summoner spells are Flash and Ghost. That's really important for Swain because of his ultimate. You want to use that Ghost to be able to get around really quickly and maximize your ultimate percentage. He doesn't really have any tough matchups right now, it looks like. Aurelion Sol is one, but Aurelion Sol is picked so infrequently right now that you really don't have to worry about anything. In these counter tough matchups, you're really looking for anybody that has like a dark red percentage, but pretty much all these are at a 50-50 at worst. So really good champion in terms of also being able to blind pick them. Skill priority, you're going to max Q, then W, then E with Swain. And items here, standard items start with the Doran's Ring, but then again the core item here, Malignance, just works really well with his ultimate. You're going to pair that up with Sorcerer's Shoes, and then Rylai's Crystalline Scepter for the slow to also help the ultimate. So a nice little core set here that's benefiting Swain's ultimate really good. Okay, the next champion here that we're looking at that's got a 52.86% win rate, so the second best champion of the patch, is actually Kayle. So this one's surprising to me just because I didn't think Kayle is really benefiting from any of the items right now really crazily, but it looks like running a Fleet Footwork setup is going to be the best bet on her right now. You're going to run Sorcery secondary with that Gathering Storm to slowly build up your power levels and scale even harder into the late game. She does have some tough matchups, so you have Anivia, Neferi, and Cassiopeia, which are going to be pretty 3 tough matchups. So you're looking to ban someone, try and ban one of those 3 champions. I guess they just give her too much problems early in the game and even post level 6 with their wave clear and the ability to hold her in a lane or kind of hold her hostage. And then skill priority here, Q, E, W with Kayle in this current patch. Interesting that sometimes the client recommends that you're maxing out your E first, but try and max out your Q first. You pick up E first in lane just to help you get some last hits, but then you're maxing out your Q first. So that'll help you with your damage and your output. And if that's not something you're doing, then you might not see that as high as a win percentage. And then starting items here, sometimes people do try and build Kayle AD, but it looks like AP is still her preferred build out, so you're going to rush the Berserker's Greaves as our first item here, and then you're going to get Nashor's Tooth and Rabadon's Deathcut second. So that's going to be your core. After that, you can kind of build up pretty situationally, I guess, depending on what you need. There is a Zhonya's Hourglass somewhere in this build as a 6th item, but if you obviously need that a little bit earlier because you're against an AD Assassin, let's say in the mid lane, then you can maybe rush that as a 4th item. Okay, switching our attention now to Neferi. So this has been an interesting champion where it's kind of been back and forth, up and down in the meta, but she's back right now at a 52.75% win rate, so our top 3 champion for this current week. And you're going to be running a first strike rune page, so that's going to help you kind of proc off a little bit more damage in your initial trades when you land your first Q, and then also, I guess, as the game goes, get a little bit more gold income and hopefully snowball a little bit harder. Anytime you're playing an AD champion in the mid lane, you're looking to snowball, so that rune set's going to be pretty stock standard if you're playing an AD Assassin right now. Obviously, you're running Flash Ignite for the summoner spells. Not too many tough counter picks here, but you can see there's a bit more champions in the red, so you've got Diana at a 44.5% win rate here if you're versing Diana. That's just maybe because of the fact that if you actually jump in on her, she's got that shield, and her ultimate works better if you actually walk into her. So she's a champion if you're engaging onto her, she's actually happy to get engaged on. Tristan, I feel like, there's not a lot of matches there. If you play this well, you could probably outplay her, but it likely has to do with the fact that she can W or R away from you even if you W into her. So that could be one of the tougher matches matchups. I don't think you need to worry about too many Gragas's or Aurelias as you play. These are, going to be very niche matchups. I haven't seen too many people play Gragas or Aurelia mid lane, so not too many bad matchups, but still definitely one to watch out for with the ban with Diana potentially. Skill order, you're going to be maxing out the Q first, and then your E, and then W last. Pretty stock standard there. And then the core items here, you're going to be running that Profane Hydra for the wave clear. That just really helps with the cleave and the passive on that. And then cooldown reduction with the Ionian Boots of Lucidity. You want to be able to spam your abilities a lot. And then opportunity seems to be the highest rate, win rate, kind of second major core item on her there with the move speed, I think, and gaining lethality outside of combat. This, after that, the 4th, 5th, 6th item options can really change, I think, depending on the game state and the team compositions, but just try and have some fun rushing these core items and see what happens. Okay, so let's turn our attention now to the worst 3 performing champions of this week, and that's going to be LeBlanc to kick us off here at a 46.75% win rate. So LeBlanc's seen some really high highs building AD. Right now you can see with the recommended build still building AP with the Luden's Companion. She's sitting below a 50% win rate, so if you're going to play her AP, it's recommending Electrocute still. Skill path is still going to be maxing W, then Q, then E, but it's just not performing that well right now with the Luden's Companion, the Sork Shoes, and then the Storm Surge. I think the Storm Surge nerfs kind of hit her a little bit hard. She was one of the champions who really benefited off the Storm Surge buffs, so right now that seems to be hitting her quite hard. There are some other recommended builds here, like with AD, Fleet Footwork, and Static Shiv, but 42% win rate, and there's over 1,500 matches on that, so it's still not really super performing well. There's an interesting stat here with crit if you rush Fleet Footwork and then you go Static Shiv into a Storm Razor. There's a potential there for a higher win rate, but again, the sample size is pretty small. I don't know if I would trust that as being a positive OP build, but give it a try. It could be really good. And then we move on to Ziggs, our second worst champion here of the patch. This one's interesting because Ziggs is a pretty strong champion, I think, in terms of being able to spam abilities in lane and utilize a lot of extra mage items that have health and ability power that have been more powerful in Season 14, but he seems to be struggling even with the Arcane Comet rune set here and double adaptive offense force runes. He's still struggling. He's got a lot of weak matchups you can see here. Kassadin just destroys him, Vel'Koz destroys him, Annie destroys him, Talia destroys him, Zoe destroys him. There's so many negative win rate champions here that's probably part of the reason why he's performing so poorly right now. Into some positive matchups he could be really strong, but into a lot of these picks, and a lot of these picks are quite popular right now still, he's going to struggle. Skill priority would still be the QEW on Ziggs, so nothing really changed there. And then the core items similar to LeBlanc here, we've got Luden's Companion and Storm Surge, slightly different boots here with the Sork Shoes, but still it looks like anybody who's had these as their core items, these used to be really strong earlier in patch 14, but right now they're pretty weak, the Luden's Companion and the Storm Surge. And then our worst performing mid laner here, he's not a true mid laner, but he has been known to see some play in the mid lane, is actually Ezreal. So 44.73% win rate, and that's across a good amount of matches, over 7,000 matches. So this is just a champion you really want to avoid right now. The interesting thing though is that he's had some buffs across his kit to increase the AD ratios across his abilities, so this might change, but as of right now it's maybe something if you're playing ranked you want to avoid playing Ezreal mid lane. He's got a few different build paths you can see here, but even with the recommended Essence Reaver build path where you have press the attack as your major rune, he's still not performing that well. I think it has to do with right now in the mid lane, again, there's just so many matchups depending on the items that they build that benefit too harder than Ezreal buffs would have benefited him, where again, even if you're not going to face an Aurelion Soul, Diana you'll face, Swain, who's our #1 pick of the patch, you'll definitely face him a lot, Nefiri you'll come up against her a lot, Echo, Akshan, right? You might not see Aurelia, Talon, Azir, Xerath. There's so many bad matchups for Ezreal mid right now, so just something to avoid if you're looking to have a hard impact. Ezreal is really safe. You can just kind of hang back in lane and hit Qs and not die, so if that's what you're looking to do when you log on and just have some fun landing Qs and hitting skill shots and not dying and staying super safe, that's fine. but he's just not going to have that kind of super hard carry impact on your games. And then if we look here at the core items again, even with the Essence Reaver Rush followed up by the Man Immune, which is a pretty standard kind of build item path for Ezreal, you know, having that Essence Reaver in your back pocket, or sorry, not the Essence Reaver, the Man Immune in your back pocket to upgrade, he's still not performing great. He's got a couple other build sets here you can see, but again, you know, rushing that Trinity Force, 45% win rate, and then even when you're using First Strike and maybe rushing the Man Immune there, 40% win rate. So just stay away from this champion, I think, for now until things shake out or maybe he gets another buff. And then kind of the bonus here that I want to chat about that I've kind of highlighted here is actually the on-hit Twisted Fate build. Riot's buffed a lot of his AD ratios and on-hit ratios, I guess you could say, if you build AD items on Twisted Fate. So right now, if you actually run Press the Attack as your main rune set, and then you follow that up with a Kraken Slayer, Twisted Fate on hit is actually sitting at a 60% win rate mid lane over 1,000 matches. So again, it's not super significant statistically, but I mean, there's still enough matches there to see that if people are trying this guy out for the first time or new players are picking him up and trying AD, it's still quite successful. So he's got a couple bad matchups. I would say ban out Nefiri or Swain if you can, one of those two who are coincidentally the top 3 champions in this patch. Try and ban them out. And then with on-hit Twisted Fate, where you're building AD items, you're actually going to rush a max out on E, W, and then Q. And you can see here with the skill order, Q actually comes really late. You actually don't put a point in until level 13. So keep an eye out for this. If you're playing AD Twisted Fate, make sure that you're skilling up correctly and following the skill path. And then core items here, it looks like Boots of Swiftness are the fastest rush item, just for that move speed to help you kind of kite around as Twisted Fate and avoid dying too much. And then you're going to go into Kraken Slayer and then Ginsu's Rage Blade again for that on hit, stacking up and working with your third auto on the Kraken Slayer. Now I will say I haven't play tested this myself yet. I might do it in a video soon, but it doesn't look like there's a lot of health or defensive stats in this build, and Twisted Fate as a champion can be very squishy to begin with. So you're probably going to be a glass cannon. I would say that if you're someone who can kite well, you'll probably have some fun with this build. If kiting and kind of orb walking or attack moving isn't really your strength, probably stay away from this, because you got to be really good with your spacing and really good with your attack moving to be able to pull this off. So anyway, guys, that's kind of our sum up for this week. I'll catch you in our next week's roundup, where we talk about the best 3 and worst 3 champions next week again.